episode 2, Armageddon. We're still in the Armageddon crossover. It is still Armageddon in Central City, and this is your boy Icon with some DC TV. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody all across the world. So, in the last episode, we left with Despero and Barry. They were standing face to face, and then he was just like, I'll give you 7 days, Flash, in order to prove that you are not going to destroy the world. And we still haven't realized why Despero cares so much. He even said earlier, like later in the episode, he gave this whole speech about how, you know, he was with a platoon and, you know, there was one person, like he made a poor decision, you know, not to do something. And then when he went back, his entire platoon was destroyed or something, and he feels guilty. So he vowed to like never let somebody, you know, like get far ahead of themselves again. But that's not a good reason. It's not a good reason, because it's really a matter of, why do you care so much about planet Earth? And Allegra even said that at one point, because she was just like, why is he making it his personal business, you know, saying to stop the Flash from apparently destroying the world? I'm like, we have a Justice League, for Christ's sake. So Barry, because Barry even said, he was like, I destroy the world. And I'm like, that can't be possible, because there's a Superman, there's a Supergirl, there's a Martian Manhunter. There are other heroes. No one's just going to let you destroy the world. But anyway, so he says that, you know, he was like, how you have 7 days to prove to me that you're not going to turn on humanity. But, you know, he told him, he said, but your mind starts to slip tomorrow. You know, he's like, that's when everything turns to complete shit. So he's like, and I'll be watching Flash, ha ha ha. Barry, you know, he's going through the course of his day. He's talking to the team, he's talking to Iris, and then he's just like, listen, he said, you know, forget about what Despero said. He's like, we're going to focus and we're going to do what we got to do to save the city, because saving the city is our top priority. And the Killer Frost came out her mouth and she was like, even from you? And I'm like, first of all, ain't nobody ask you that. So second of all, it's like, especially from him, because if he does go crazy, they're going to have to stop him. So everybody needs to be on high alert in this regard. But he still has a job. Like, Barry still has a job to do. He goes down to investigate a robbery in a crime scene. And when they got to the crime scene, there was a security guard that was there, like some precious diamonds or paintings or something were stolen. And there was a security guard who was said to, he kind of went crazy. They said that the security guard went crazy and he lost his mind. So once Barry heard that, he was kind of like, well, if a security guard, like, you know, just went through madness, then that sounds like, you know, what Despero, you know, came up with. So he's like, there has to be like a metahuman who's out there, you know, like blasting people and, you know, like, and warping people's minds and making them go crazy. So they just have to find them. And here's where the series of events start to take place, which can drive the Flash to complete madness. The first domino that fell, Kramer showed up. When Kramer showed up, she told Barry to turn in his badge and well, he didn't have a gun, but she said to turn in his badge, because they said the metahuman that they captured last season that had the ultraviolet power, she was she got arrested because she was the CCPD mole. But they said that they found out, the DA said that there was a second mole in place, and the second mole was Barry Allen. So he's under investigation now for conspiracy against the Central City Police Department. So of course Barry's like, that's complete shit, you know, because like he's like, I wouldn't do that, you know. But Kramer was just like, well, she's like, but it's my job to take your gun and your badge. And then she hit him with the, you know, if Joe was here, he would tell me to keep an open mind. And when she said that, Barry didn't flinch. Barry didn't make a face. He was just like, okay, but Joe's not here. But then, you know, she still insisted on, you know, like on taking his badge. So after she takes his badge, he goes to Cecile. He's talking to Cecile, and Cecile's like, don't worry, Barry, we'll get these motherfuckers. And, you know, she was like, we'll sue the police department in the entire city if we have to. And then he was looking at Cecile like, he was like, yo, you good? And then she was just like, no. She was like, you know, like, and she said, it's been hard at home, and Jen and I are having like a really hard time. She was like, but you know why, you know, that is. And then he kind of looked at her like, nah. He's like, I actually don't know why. He looked very confused. But then at that moment, Cecile's power kicked in, because she was feeling the presence of Despero. Because Despero, he's eye spying on Barry, like he's looking in on him, you know, trying to wait for the moment for Barry Allen to crack. Because once Barry cracks, then Despero's going to kill him. Cecile was able to sense his presence, but she couldn't see him. And then, you know, his Despero was sitting over there, and he was just like, I'm not actually here, Flash. He was like, but I see you. He's like, I see your mind. He's like, and the events are starting to unfold that are going to make you go crazy, and I'll be right there to kill your life, you know, blah blah blah. And then Barry gets a phone call from Caitlin, and then Caitlin was like, oh, Barry, you have to get down here immediately, because there was a quarantine team that was basically taking over Star Labs. You know, now Barry, since Barry owns Star Labs, you know, he goes down there to talk to them. He's like, you know, like, I'm Barry Allen, I'm the owner. And then they were just like, yo, you got a radiation leak, bro, and we need to quarantine the entire Star Labs facility. So now everybody's kind of like freaking out, because not only did they say they had to quarantine the building, he said that they have to. He said once they know. He said once they find the radiation leak, they have to destroy the building and then get rid of all the radioactive cement and all the radioactive pieces. So they basically said they're going to destroy Star Labs. And I'm like, if you're doing the Flash, you can't destroy Star Labs, you know? So now Caitlin's upset because she's like, oh, I've lived here. She's like, I've lived in this facility more than my own home. You know, like Chester had all his stuff there. And then there's the small insignificant fact that that's Team Flash headquarters with all their satellites and everything. That's how they track and find metas. But unfortunately, they did have to shut it down. So everybody was told to grab whatever they could, you know, and then get the F out of Dodge. Barry went to Gideon and he told Gideon to activate the camouflage protocols where it hides all the Flash facilities like the speed room, the metahuman pipeline, like it hides all that stuff. So when the radiation team was walking through the halls, those walls they couldn't see because those things were like they were holographically blocked off. But I mean, they're gonna find that stuff anyway once they destroy the building. But I guess because it's in pieces, they won't recognize what it actually is. But you know, and then Gideon even said she was like, you know, she's like, I have to wipe my memory, Barry Allen. She was like, otherwise your secret identity will be compromised. Although he shows a secret identity to everybody on the planet. And I don't understand why he just couldn't download Gideon onto like a drive or something and then take Gideon with him. I don't understand like why Gideon had to like completely blow herself up out of, you know, like out of existence. But that's what she did. Like Gideon took herself offline, and I guess in another day or so they're gonna blow up the Star Labs facility, which you think would bring Nora or Bart to the present, because since Nora and Bart's from the future, in their time, I believe Star Labs is the Flash Museum. So if the Star Labs is the Flash Museum, and it used to be the home of Team Flash, but it's about to get destroyed here. If they destroy it here, it gets destroyed in the future. So once it gets destroyed in the future, why would Nora not come down to be like, yo, what y'all doing down here? Because like the future timeline is changing. But we'll see if any of that happens. The entire Team Flash basically they got kicked out of Star Labs and now they're working out of Chester's basement. But before they started working out of Chester's basement, they went to Barry's house and they were all at Barry's house talking and having a conversation. Chester ended up finding this metahuman that has the ability to control people's minds. When they found her, you know, the Flash went down to go slap the metacuffs on her and take care of her once and for all. You know, they come face to face. She sees him, and I feel like this is very important. When she saw him, she was just like, oh, you finally found me, Flash. And then he was just like, yeah, it was only a matter of time before you and I come face to face. And then she was just like, oh, so what, we're supposed to fight now or something? And then she said, I knew I would run into you when I came to Central City. And then she said the line, I mean, I don't know the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, she said, you know, because she knew she'd eventually have to fight the Flash, she said, I've been working on your mind for a while now. And then I thought, what an odd thing to say. You know, she said that she's been working on his mind for a while. And because he has speed thinking, and even Despero said, like the metahuman power, it accelerates because of his speed. So I thought, okay, this is very interesting. But then, you know, Barry ignored all that. And then he just went to try to just snatch her up and take her to Iron Heights. And then she used her psychic power on him. And then, you know, just before Barry got to her, he was in his loft and he was on the ground. And then Allegra was there with her hands up because Allegra had just blasted him. And then, Caitlin Snow had the ratchet on him. And then they were just like, yo, bro, what the hell is wrong with you? They were like, you almost killed Chester. And then he was like, they said that you came in here throwing lightning and tearing up the apartment. And then he looked at her. He was like, I wouldn't do that. He was like, I was just fighting this metahuman. And they were like, nah, like you came in here and you destroyed everything. And then he was just like, yo, I don't remember that. So now he's kind of like bugging out. He had to prove to them that he was okay. And then after he proved to them that he was okay, you know, then that's when he said, I know why I lose my mind. He said, there's a metahuman out there that can control people's minds and make people go crazy. And I just ran into her and she did this to me. She's the reason why I destroyed the apartment. He's like, we really have to find her now because her power is dangerous. And I think she's the reason why I go crazy and why I end up becoming going mad or destroying the planet. So, you know, we got to do what we got to do and we got to find him. So everybody kind of reluctantly, because, you know, they're just like, yo, this motherfucker just tried to kill us. They kind of reluctantly, you know, decided to help him. And now the entire Team Flash is looking for him. You know, he got Iris on the case. Iris started looking for him. Iris came up with this woman's name. Iris said that she was from National City, and then she came over to Central City. And speaking of National City, Alex showed up. Alex from Supergirl, which is now over. And I guess now that they're not filming Supergirl, Alex can appear on other shows now. Like she has the freedom to do so, you know. And I hope to see Alex on more shows because the DEO is back. Like we saw in the series finale that they brought back the DEO. So hopefully like Jean and Alex, you know, Dreamer, Brainy, Kara, you know, if she just, you know, Melissa Benoist decides she wants to put on the cape again, hopefully like these characters will continue to come back and feature like in other people's shows. So it was definitely nice to see Alex, who is the second cameo character, the first one being Ray. So while Iris and Barry were talking, you know, they were just like, you know, what am I supposed to do? And then she's like, yeah, whatever it is, we'll handle it, you know, like we'll handle it, you know, together because that's what Team Flash does. So thanks to Iris and Team Citizen, they locate her again. She's she was downtown. She stopped an armored car because I guess they were doing like a diamond exchange or whatever. And then Barry went down and tried to stop her again. So he goes down there, and then she reveals that she has other power. She has like, you know, like telekinetic power where she was able to lift Barry off the ground. And she used to be a magician whose magicianal powers was bending spoons. So she lifted the Flash up into the air and she started to like bend the Flash in half. And then that's when Barry, he tapped into his power because he was they said that he vibrated his cells to build up an electrical charge. And then while he's building up an electrical charge internally, it'll eventually like fill his body up and then the energy will explode. And I feel like the fact that he did that contributed to his accelerated craziness. But then when he let loose the energy and he fired the energy, yes, the energy did hit the metahuman and it knocked her out and it took her out for the count. But they also made it a point to show that his electricity destroyed cars and it destroyed property. So that was a sign of like things to come, you know. But then, you know, like he snapped out of it, you know, he grabbed the metahuman, put the cuffs on her, and then took her to Iron Heights. And then he proceeded, you know, then he went back to Chester's basement where the rest of the team was. You know, they're celebrating a job well done. They're just like, you know, we caught another metahuman. And then Caitlin had even said that all the other people that she whammied with her mind power instantly woke up. So they're just like, well, if they're fine, then the Flash should be fine too, you know. And then, you know, Allegra had mentioned being hungry, and then Barry had said he was just like, yeah, he was like, you know, why don't we go to Joe and Cecile's and we'll see if Joe can, you know, whip us up some of his famous jambalaya. And then that's when it got awkward. And then everybody looked at him, and then Allegra was like, that's not funny. And then Caitlin was just like, oh, Joe's dead, Barry, you know that. And then he was like, what you talking about, Willis? He was like, Joe ain't dead. And then Chester was the only one. He was just like, yo, he was like, look, you know, he is gone, but maybe you're like feeling some like because like even Caitlin, she was like, yo, that's not funny. And you know, and even then like Barry looked mad confused, but then, you know, Chester was like, well, maybe you're still processing it. But he was like, you know, we'll get through this together. And then he's just like, yo, Joe's not dead. It's like, what y'all talking about? And then, you know, he sped off. He went to now see, and that was the thing, he went back to Joe's house, but he went zooming in like a bat out of hell, you know, like, and just like zooming and flying all over the place. And I feel like he made an unconscious pit stop before he went to the house, because when he got to the house, you know, he had asked Iris, he was like, where's Joe? And then Iris looked at him and she was just like, and then she was like, he died. She's like, Iris said, Joe died 6 months ago. And she said, you gave the eulogy at his wedding. And then Barry was like, no, that can't be, like, Joe's not gone. And then Cecile comes out of nowhere. And then she was like, how dare you, Barry? She said, I'm trying to get over it. Why won't you let me get over it? And I'm like, he didn't even do anything yet. Like, he didn't even do anything. Like, I'm very confused. They even showed the mantle on the fireplace where it had Joe's picture, like, rest in peace. And once again, in the future, Nora and Bart are well aware of Papa Joe. You know, like, Nora mentions Papa Joe all the time. They talk about Joe and Cecile. If Joe's no longer here and he died in the future, if you're Nora or Bart, why would you not come to the president and be like, yo, what are y'all doing? Y'all messing up the timeline. So, and, you know, but then it was the type of thing where once Barry was just like, Joe's not dead, they tried to make it seem like he was crazy. Like they did the Twilight Zone thing. And, you know, like Cecile and Iris, they're looking at him and everybody's just like, what's wrong with you, Barry? And then, you know, and then after that, then Despero showed up and then he was like, see, Flash. He was like, your mind is breaking. But before I get to all that, Let me finish. So Despero showed up. He was just like, "Yo, you're going crazy." And then Barry was just like, "Oh, you're the reason why." He was like, "You did this." He was like, "I've done nothing, Flash," or whatever. But then he was just like, "Your mind is about to break, and now I must kill you." He attacks Barry. He puts Cecile to sleep because Cecile tried to use her mind power, but he was like, "My power is too strong, woman." And then he put her to sleep. And then right before he killed Barry and dealt the final blow, Chester and Allegra showed up with a device that Chester built, because earlier in the episode Chester, he was asked by Killer Frost to build a kill device, but instead he ended up building like a saving device, like a shield device. It blocked Despero's power from blasting Barry. He told Barry to run. Barry took off and ran for the hills. And then that's when Despero was just like, "If any of you ever try to stop me again," he's like, "I'll kill you where you stand." And then he took off. He was like, "I will find the Flash and I will end his pitiful life once and for all." Now here's the Joe thing. I'm on Team Barry. I don't think Joe is dead because, first of all, the fact that Homegirl, the meta, I forgot her name. The fact that the meta said, "I've been in your mind for a while." By saying that, are we sure she's just talking about Barry, or is she talking about Barry and the entire Team Flash? It could be that she's in their heads and she's making all of them think Joe is dead, and Barry's the only one that's that's aware of what's really happening. I don't think Joe's probably in a hospital somewhere recovering, or he went on a vacation. And like I said, and this psychic woman, she's making everybody see this, but everybody thinks Barry's the one who's crazy because they all believe that that Joe's actually dead. I don't think they killed Joe West. And here's the other reason why I don't think that Joe actually died. Everyone is acting very calm about it. It's been 6 months. And okay, I get it. I get why Allegra, Chester, or even Caitlin to an extent aren't all broken up and upset about it. I get that. Iris does not look like someone who just lost their father. When the season started, when the first episode started, she was all happy. She was lovey-dovey with Barry. She was talking about them, getting it on and having babies and making children and everything. That does not look like someone who just lost their father. And Iris and Joe, they're super tight. We've been watching the relationship between Iris and Joe for 7-8 years now. If something happened to Joe, Iris would not be thinking about making no babies with Barry if Joe was really dead, which is why I feel like it's a psychic thing, and she's gotten into the minds of everybody else, because everyone's reaction to ever since the season started, when and I said this in the last episode, when Chester had made that line about, he was like, "Oh, you might as well be dead to me," and then he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Cecile, I didn't mean to say that." Nobody else batted an eye when he said that. Nobody else was just like, "Oh, poor Joe, rest in peace." Everybody's acting like nothing happened. These people are not acting like they lost somebody. So I don't think Joe dead. Like I said, I just think Homegirl, she got in everybody else's brain. Maybe Despero got in everybody else's brain, and Barry's the only person that knows the truth. Joe will be back at the end of this crossover, mark my words. So but then after that, Barry had dipped, and then Barry dipped, and then he took off. He ran all the way to the Hall of Justice. We're not calling it a Star Labs facility. It's the Hall of Justice, damn it. And then when he gets to the Hall of Justice, he's dejected. He takes his gloves off. He's sitting there depressed, wondering what's happening, because the entire city is after the Flash. And that was another thing I forgot to point out. After right before Despero showed up in the house, Iris had turned on the TV, and it showed Barry running around Central City, destroying City Hall, looking like a crazy madman. And Barry was like, "Yo, I don't remember doing that." And I feel like he did that on his way to Joe's house when he found out that when they told him Joe was dead, and he ran to Joe's house. I feel like he blew up City Hall before he went to Joe's house, because his mind is kind of going crazy. And or here's my other prediction, and I meant to bring this up last week. If the Flash is going around destroying people, destroying public property, and running amok, and he's doing all these things that Barry doesn't remember doing, why do we not think it's not the Reverse Flash pretending to be Barry Allen? Like I'm not against that idea either. That it's actually Earbard Thawne is probably the one putting this whole mind control thing into play to break the Flash's mind, and he's the one that destroyed City Hall. He's the one that destroys the Earth in the future, you know, just so he can like, you know, he can blame the Flash. And he probably got like the, you know, the woman, the mental, like the psychic woman. He probably got her to help him. I'm not ruling out Earbard Thawne either. But anyway, so I said, but after that, you know, like Barry took off because he was just like, yo, I almost killed Chester. I destroyed City Hall. Joe's dead for some reason, and I don't remember any of this happening. And then that's when we get the third cameo in the Armageddon crossover, which is my favorite cameo and the most important cameo. While Barry's standing at the table, at the Justice League table, you know, trying to figure out his next moves, we get the returning Black Lightning. Black Lightning's back, baby. The Black is back. Jefferson Pierce in the house. And again, another character who doesn't have a show. So, like, the Atom doesn't have a show anymore. Alex doesn't have a show anymore. Black Lightning. Like, this entire crossover is filled up with all the characters who no longer have shows. And Batwoman, you know, and then, you know, Jeff said to Barry, he was just like, yo, Barry, what's going on with you? Is everything okay? And then he was like, what's going on, Barry? And then Barry was like, injustice, like injustice. And I like, oh, then that's how it ended. It ended with Black Lightning and Barry at the Hall of Justice trying to figure out the next moves. So I'm down for that. I'm very down for that. That was how the episode ended. And thank you for tuning in. So in episode 3, Batwoman's coming because Batwoman just had their mid-season finale. So in the break of the mid-season finale until Batwoman comes back, she has time to go to Central City to help the Flash with the crossover. I just want to see everybody's reaction because I don't know if Barry knows that she's black. Because the last time Superman, Supergirl, Black Lightning, Martian Manhunter, you know, the entire Justice League, even even the White Canary, the last time they all saw Batwoman, she was Kate Kane. So now that she's black, I want to, like I said, I want to see that. And that's it. And I want to see Nora, and I want to see Bart too, along with Mia Smoke, because it's the future, and what Barry's doing now affects them directly. Yeah, so that was it. That's it. But I'm looking forward to episode 3 to see the interaction between Black Lightning and Barry. And thank you for tuning in. Share your thoughts, your questions, comments, and your concerns down below. Let me know what you think about this particular episode. Do you think I'm right as far as Joe not being dead? Do you think I'm wrong? You know, what do you think's going on with the other characters? Share your thoughts and we'll continue to talk about it. Hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, always on YouTube where we can share these thoughts back and forth. And like I said, we'll keep rolling until the secrets are revealed in the crossover. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So until next time, for some Armageddon Part 3 action. Take care. And for this being Force, I love this.